Very good evening. This is the PNGTV Live News Bulletin at 7. I'm Belinda Cora, acknowledging the efforts by the private sector, specifically those who continue to work hard in the mining sector. Prime Minister Peter O NEILL today opened the second PNG Petroleum and Energy Summit in Port Moresby by firstly highlighting the country's loss following the 26 February earthquake in Hela and Southern Highlands provinces. The airfield at Moro, operated by Oil Search, has become the center of the country's relief operations during this time of disaster, and Mr. O NEILL commended efforts of Oil Search and others in assisting our people recover from this devastating disaster. To date, the national government is still to confirm the number of deaths, but it understands that close to 150 men, women and children have so far lost their lives during the 7.5 magnitude quake.
Looking at this, I am very encouraged by the partnerships that we have been able to forge between government and private sector and development partners, and there is no doubt that we will continue to enhance this so that we can support many of the affected communities for years to come.
The Prime Minister is confident that PNG will recover from the overwhelming destruction the disaster had on its people, infrastructure and the mining sector, and reminded participants of the potentials that lie ahead, which must be turned into tangible development.
With the upswing in energy prices, I think it is the time for us to invest and ensure that the next projects in this sector is developed on a timely basis. We need to encourage accelerated investment and, of course, continue to encourage upstream exploration.
Furthermore, investors were also encouraged to tap into other potential resources like hydrocarbon in the Gulf of Papua, including the Bismarck Sea. He has thanked exploration companies that have taken this step in the last 3 years, with the government focus of sharing benefits derived from other resource sectors.
We have to be realistic about the calls for a better share of the resources by our people. As prices are benign in the past decade, and we have seen the slump over the past few years, we have to manage expectations right across the board.
Prime Minister Peter O NEILL attributed the government's determination and management of the sector to stability, which has led to predictability and success despite the economic downturn. Highlighting the huge potential which lies ahead in the country's oil and gas sector, Managing Director of Oil Search Limited Peter Botten today emphasized on the need to be more responsible with planning for future investments. He was speaking on the opening day of the country's second Petroleum and Energy Summit. Mr. Botten says one major point that the industry must attempt to focus on is the need to ensure all plans are tailored towards government and people's aspirations in developing significant and domestic market for its energy.
Significant domestic market, industry development and power and all things. It is a core to bringing the communities and government and people of Papua New Guinea along with us. And we wish to play our part in doing that, and in fact are doing so through power developments, exploration and appraisal work, which underscores our ability to monetise or commercialise potential fields that may not necessarily be tied to LNG.
He says the working relationship between Oil Search Limited and its partners in the current and second LNG gas projects has been outstanding, with more efficiency and capital usage into the future.
And with the broad alignment between ourselves, Exxon and Total on the preferred development option, the gate now is open to develop 3 more trains, 8 million tonnes capacity, doubling the capacity of our oil and gas production over the next 5 or so years.
He also highlighted that there is also a need to look more closely at the current benefit-sharing system of PNG's resources. Mr. Botten also managed to squeeze in updates on current explorations, which includes Muruk and Pyongyang.
We've still got to present this to government. We've still got to negotiate a gas agreement, go through pre-feed and start signing binding downstream agreements. A lot of work to do, but progress is being made towards feed entry, hopefully later this year.
Mr. Bourton highlighted challenges that lie ahead, especially on when potential gas in PNG can finally hit the markets.
And from an oil search, putting $200 million, our share of $200 million into a Maruk well and a discovery, and a very exciting one, it becomes very important to know when those molecules from Maruk might come to market. Most of the gas that we're using right now, was discovered in the 80s. So it's taken many, many years for that gas to find a home.
The court battle for the Madang regional seat had taken another twist today. The recent decision by the National Court on the first of this month saw an order for a recount of the Madang regional seat after a successful challenge by candidate Jerry Singarok to Peter Yama's election. The decision will now be scrutinized after Yama was granted leave today by the Supreme Court to review that decision. Kaligan Tanda with this report.
In a press conference today, Peter Yama and his lawyer Ben Lomai announced their successful application to the Supreme Court to seek leave to review the decision by the National Court on the 1st of March to order a recount for the Madang regional seat. According to Mr. Lomai, presiding judge, Chief Justice Salamo Njia considered two main grounds, among others, when granting leave. Firstly, on the ground concerning Section 103, subsection 3, paragraph C of the Constitution, which concerns the eligibility of candidates, which basically states that a person is not qualified to be or to remain a member of Parliament if he is under sentence of death or imprisonment for a period more than 9 months. This was in regard to petitioner James Yali, whom the National Court ruled was ineligible as he was on parole at the time of his nomination, and the votes cast for him had spoiled the election results and thus warranting the recount. Chief Justice Njia considered that the provision should have been looked at more properly, especially concerning its full interpretation, which appeared to be lacking. Secondly, the relief sought by petitioners Singarok and Yali was, along with other grounds, considered by Chief Justice Njia. According to Lomai, the trial judge made an error by not addressing the competency of both cases and proceeded to trial. The two cases had separate facts and should have been heard separately. These and other grounds were ruled by Njia today when he granted leave to review to Yama. Yama will be applying for a stay order next Monday at 1:30 p.m. for the recount to be stayed pending his review. Kalagantamba, PNGTV Live.
More than 8.2 million tons of LNG was produced and 110 cargoes delivered during 2017. This is about 20% beyond what ExxonMobil Limited originally thought the plant could achieve when the facilities were designed. This was mentioned by head of ExxonMobil PNG, Andrew Barry, during the opening of the Petroleum and Energy Summit today.
Of their world-class design and the construction and
He says the PNG LNG project has continued to operate as a model for excellence, producing more than 27 million tons of LNG and delivered 374 LNG cargoes since production began. In May of last year, the Heights gas conditioning plant achieved a milestone with 1 trillion cubic feet of gas produced since operations began. Mr. Berry says ExxonMobil PNG achieved these milestones while also completing the largest scheduled major maintenance program at the LNG plant since startup and completing some of the work on site for the first time ever around the world. He says this is also demonstrating the amazing capabilities of its ever-growing Papua New Guinean workforce. ExxonMobil also acknowledged the effort made by its staff and partners in relief efforts for those affected in the devastating quake in its project site. You're watching PNGTV Live News Bulletin. More after these messages. Welcome back. You're watching PNGTV Live News Bulletin. The Hela community in the nation's capital turned up for a fundraising drive at the Marabarracks Oval over the weekend as efforts continue to assist quake victims. Donations in kind were collected with other fundraising activities taking place, which was also attended by the province's franchise rugby team and other business houses. Gregory Avira with this report.
It was a heavy downpour, but this did not deter the people and friends of Ella province who came to support. Adult under a tent, members of the Ella Inaka and players from the franchise club Ella Wigman collect donations in kind. Across the field, food stalls are set up to raise funds to assist those affected by last month's quake. On stage, various artists perform to support the cause. Organizers were pleased with the turnout despite the rain. Chairperson Gloria Arabagali, while thanking those who came to support, extended a call for continued assistance towards the relief effort.
Purpose of coming together and forming Hela Inaka. So Hela Inaka Relief is my Hela, and it says Kim Mia, Kim Mero, Kim Mima, which means I give as a Hela for my people. You give as well as a Hela friend. We all give for our people in there as Papua New Guineans, because Hela, not only Hela, the Southern Islands and our various areas that the earthquake affected are in great despair, and you and I cannot sit still.
Also present at the fundraiser was Oil Search Limited. The company's general manager for stakeholder engagement, Leon Baskins, says they continue to provide support on ground and were present to inform the Port Moresby-based Ella community of the work being done.
Information is they're getting a lot of in the paper, but our presence here is also important, and we've prepared fact sheets, what we've done, and some of the information. We're just sharing basically the information that people are working in the first 2 weeks up there as the first respondent, because you'll see in the fact sheets that we've covered basically the most parts. I think the whole parts, 4 corners of Hela and Southern Highlands provinces, reach over 70,000 people, over 95 loads, and over 70 tons of relief cargo, and treated over 100 people that needed treatment, and also evacuated them tomorrow, and also some to Moresby. So we've been really heavily engaged in the first 2 weeks.
The weekend's fundraising event will be followed by a fundraising dinner, which organizers hope to stage in the coming months. Gregoria Vira, PNG TV Live.
The building that formerly housed the Department of the Prime Minister and the National Executive Council will undergo renovation work following a contract signing. Governor-General, His Excellency Grand Chief Sir Bob Dadai, executed on behalf of the state a contract for the refurbishment of the Marauta House to China Jigshu International Limited. Gregory Avira with this report.
The Marauta House formerly housed the Department of Prime Minister and National Executive Council. The contract for the refurbishment project is valued at 39.9 million kina and was awarded to China Jiangsu International PNG Limited. The contract was signed by company representatives Mr. Mac Luo and Tony Zhou. Chief Executive Officer of APEC PNG 2018 Coordination Authority Christopher Hawkins also signed the contract before the Governor-General. The Marauta House, a 6-story office complex, will be used for the APEC Joint Command Center after the refurbishment work is carried out. Gregoria Vira, PNG TV Live.
Bank of South Pacific is pleased to support the National Planning Consultative Summit scheduled in Lae from the 20th to the 22nd of March 2018 with a sponsorship of 50,000 kina. Retail General Manager Paul Thornton presented a check to the National Planning Minister, Honourable Richard Murrow in Port Moresby today. In presenting the check, Mr. Thornton says as a leading bank in PNG and the South Pacific, PSP is happy to provide support for such events that encourage planning for economic growth in future. PSP plays an integral role in development of financial services in PNG and is the only licensed financial institution with operations in all provinces of PNG. He added that indeed with 44 branches, 45 sub-branches and 300 plus agencies, PSP is also represented in most districts in PNG, servicing nearly 1.5 million customers. You're watching PNGTV Live News Bulletin. More after these messages. Welcome back. You're watching PNGTV Live News Bulletin. To some sporting news, and the SP PNG Hunters suffered their first loss of the Queensland Intrust Super Cup to the Northern Pride in Cairns on Saturday. Ball handling errors and a high penalty did little to help the Hunters as they went down 26 points to 14. Gregory Avira with this report.
Tough match yesterday against the Pride, I think.
The side returned yesterday afternoon having suffered their first loss for the season. The Hunters have now won one and lost one match in their contention to defend their premiership title. The Hunters themselves proved to be their own worst enemy with many errors and penalties conceded.
I think first half was really bad for us. Second half we sort of put 3 tries on, but we kept handing over the ball easily. So yeah, too many penalties during the match, first half, second half. So we had a different game.
Maroom says the side will have to improve in its overall play, with the weekend's performance not as good as the week before. Forward Adam Korave suffered a concussion and adds to the injury list. As it is still early in the season, Maroom says the side will need to get back to their premiership winning form and have consistency in the coming months.
There's a lot of games remaining. It's only second game, first game, one at home. So the other teams in the competition, Black Hawks lost. They had a big win last weekend. Lost the Jets yesterday. So it's going to be a tough competition. So we need to be switch on every time we take that field on. I mean, every other team wants to knock us off. So.
The Hunters are now currently 8th on the ladder and will face last year's finalist Sunshine Coast Falcons in an away match this weekend. Gregory Avira, PNG TV Live.
And looking at the weather where you are this evening, showers are expected in Port Moresby, Daru, Kerema, Alotau, Popondetta, Medang and most parts of the country, while scattered morning fog and rains are also expected in the Highlands region. That's the PNGTV Live News Bulletin, and sports more at 7:30 p.m. tomorrow. Join us then.